Welcome to Fourth and Frames. I'm your host, Chris Battistel. With me, as always, is my co-host, Rhett Manuel. We will soon be joined by our other co-host, Drew Scott. And tonight, we are welcomed by very, very special guest, Howard Bender, one of the hardest working men in the biz. And we will be giving you our early wide receiver and tight end redraft rankings. Let's get it popping.
This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Like I mentioned at the top of the show, we have head of content at Fantasy Alarm, writer for New York Post Sports, FSGA and FSWA award-winning host for SiriusXM Fantasy. You can find him at Roto Buzz Guy on X, but tonight he is with us here on Fourth and Frames. Howard, welcome back to the show, brother. How are you doing? I know this is your third hour today, maybe even more, but how you feeling, man?
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just kind of running through it right now. This is a great time for us, right? Because now we're sitting here and it's the month of June and mandatory mini camps are going on. And, you know, there's a lot more to talk about. I just launched my full rankings over at fantasyalarm.com today. They went live today. So I am like right here, ready to jump into it with you guys. I'm super psyched to be here. Always a pleasure. You guys have done great stuff on my show on SiriusXM. So I love returning the favor here.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you taking the time to hop on the show with us. Rhett, we know that you're under the weather, so if you want to talk by writing on notepads or sign language, by all means, brother.
No, man, I'm telling you, what y'all gonna do tonight is y'all are gonna hear me in all my glory. A lot of times I just sound like an obnoxious Cajun. Tonight I sound like a sexy, obnoxious Cajun. So we're gonna have some fun as usual, man.
Very white with the Cajun twang. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, like I mentioned at the top, we got Drew Scott hopping on with us a little bit later, probably at the tight end portion of the show. With this episode, we're gonna give you guys our top 24 wide receivers and top 14 tight ends. Dive into a little bit of the rankings, why we got these guys where we got them. It is early. It's only June, so of course these rankings are just the base foundation of where we are starting, heading in to the 2024 redraft season. Before we jump into them, Howard, has there been any trend this year or early this year so far that you have kind of found when creating your rankings that kind of maybe help you place certain guys? Is there like last year it was the first down per route run? Is there something like that that's kind of stuck to you in your analysis process?
No, not really. There's nothing that's really stood out. What I do is I dive in and I look at what the coaching system looks like. We've got 7 new head coaches, 14 new offensive coordinators, something crazy like that. So, it's very difficult to judge what a player is going to do this year in comparison, to what he did last year. Does he have a new coordinator? Does he have, is there a new weapon in town? Like that's the thing that I think a lot of people kind of overlook when they look at year-to-year numbers. So for me, I look at what I expect. Now I know the talent of the players and I know that how they've been used and what the offensive scheme looks like if it's the same from year to year. So that kind of just helps me, gauge it. But I did something at the top of my rankings that probably, few people are doing with theirs. And so, listen, that's what it is for me. There's no one particular stat that like really stands out that like, everybody's looking at this, particular number right now. I go through it and it's not so much, it's not like look and feel versus metrics. It's just about understanding the X's and O's of football, which is something that you guys take into account also. I talk about that stuff with you guys on the regular.
Yeah, and I'm completely with you on that. Like early season rankings for me, I'm looking at guys like you said in these systems, new systems, old systems, whatever that might look like, and basically trying to find guys that I believe, especially in wide receiver and tight end rankings,
Mhm.
potential volume is going to be what leads the way for me, especially in these early rankings. So, you can have these target hogs are going to be locks no matter what. So, certain receivers are in certain offenses, they're holdovers. They're still going to be top 10 guys. Some guys coming into new systems. We know who we're talking about, maybe a certain Atlanta receiver that looks like he might get an uptick this year. So, we're going to talk about that a
Mhm.
little bit later. But yeah,
Darnell Mooney to the moon.
potential offenses and all these different things. So that's where we are early on in these rankings.
Is that not who he was talking about, Howard? Or was it not Darnell Mooney who's getting the expected boost in production this year?
I mean, I was actually going to mention an Alameda Zacchaeus Renaissance, but
Oh, deep.
There you go. It's Zacchaeus season already again. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. We appreciate each and every one who's tuning in. Drop a like, subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. Hop into the chat, drop a question for Howard, Rhett, or myself. We will answer them live on the air. We have Howard Bender from SiriusXM and Fantasy Alarm on the show with us. You can find him at RotoBuzzGuy. Like he said, you can go to fantasyalarm.com. He just dropped his rankings, his early rankings, so you can go find them all there. Howard, before we jump into the wide receivers, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. To me, it's just a bunch of hullabaloo. It's just something that he does every offseason. He's going to go on his vacation. Doesn't really need to be there for all these mini camps to get all these new players and everyone else adjusted. Is it a non-story to you as a Jets fan, or is it just put another quarter in the merry-go-round for Aaron Rodgers?
I think it's put another quarter in the merry-go-round. I mean, listen, I'll say it. I went on on record very early that I was not in favor of Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets. I didn't want the circus that comes with it or the annoying things like what he's doing right now. I mean, this is just, it is what it is. You have to expect certain things. We're not on Hard Knocks this year, so of course he's not going to, need to show up on time because he's just doing his own thing. It's just, whatever. I want him to just be done with just football and the Jets right now. I'm going to, hope that he doesn't, that he plays a full season, that he does decently, 3,800 to 4,000 yards, give me 20 to 25 touchdowns. That's it. Like, we can do it with defense and, hopefully, the ground game. But yeah, it's super annoying for me. I mean, I hate the drama. I don't need the drama.
Yeah. Well, now, would it have been as annoying if the Jets went 7-9 last year, chance to make the playoffs, just miss out? Aaron Rodgers plays the whole season, has a decent season. Would it be just as annoying as a Jets fan that he does this, or is it just compounded with how everything went before Aaron Rodgers, and this is just another topping on the New York Jets pizza pie that everyone seems to just eat every offseason?
Poop Sunday, and Aaron Rodgers is the cherry sitting on top. That's what we got.
Yeah, well,
Go Jets.
It's fun being a Jets fan because at least you got a storyline every offseason.
No, it's not. It's not fun. I want no storylines going into a year, and I just want to quietly go 10-7. Just let me have it, right? Just let me have it. Just give me something. Give me a playoff spot, whatever. Just keep me drama free. I just want to be drama free.
Well, good luck with that. Let's hop into the wide receivers. We got Howard Bender on the show. Our top 24 wide receivers. As you can see here, Rhett, you dropped your top 24. Howard dropped his top 24. I got my top 24. One of the things I've noticed across the top is we each have a different guy ranked as the wide receiver one. Rhett's got Tyreek Hill, Howard's got Jamar Chase, and I got CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you can really make an argument for each one of these guys at the top. Pretty much the top 3 to 4 guys all have the opportunity based on volume and scheme and in the offense that they're on to finish as the overall wide receiver one. Is it the fact for you, Howard, that Joe Burrow's coming back? He's expected to be healthy. We've seen what they can do from his days at LSU up into Cincinnati, that you are confident and ready that Jamar Chase is going to be the guy for fantasy owners this season?
Yeah, I had Jamar Chase ranked number one overall last season. And, it was the Joe Burrow injury. It was to no fault of Jamar Chase. Now Burrow's back. He's healthy. Chase, another year experience, the two of them working together. Listen, you can poke a hole into any top 5 player that we're going to kind of come through with. So I had Chase there last year. Tyreek is another year into it. And CeeDee Lamb's coming off of a career year. And I always kind of worry about when a guy's coming off of a career year, is he going to be able to duplicate it? Like, again, you can make a case for any of these 3 guys. I'll lean Chase, knowing that, Burrow's healthy again.
Yeah. And Rhett, for you with Tyreek Hill at the top, and you had Jamar Chase at wide receiver 5, are you expecting all 5 of these guys to pretty much mirror each other with how they're going to finish in the season?
I mean, yeah, what I'm looking at right now heading into is we're talking about Tyreek Hill, who was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy last year, coming off a tremendous target share. We know they're looking for him. We know Mike McDaniel loves speed. We know that Mike McDaniel, as Chris Burns said on a previous episode, loves to force throwing the ball even when he doesn't need to, which tells me that no matter what, barring injury, Tyreek Hill is in for another monster year. And a monster year for Tyreek Hill has a bigger ceiling than pretty much any other wide receiver in football because of that speed threat that he possesses out there. So that's why he's my wide receiver. You go down the rest of the list, I probably have Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit higher. And that's due to the continuity and the fact that he is also in line for another big target share. I know there's some Jameson Williams hype there. I'll believe it when I see it on that end. And then Jamar Chase, wide receiver 5. I mean, that's not even a knock on him because the 4 guys that are above him are all in for elite target shares as well. And I said it, and I've said this all off season as well. Justin Jefferson over Jamar Chase is very simple. I've seen Justin Jefferson do it at a high level, regardless of who his quarterback was. So it gets a slight edge in that situation for me.
Yep, solid points there. I mean, like we talked about, all 5, maybe even 6 guys that we have at the top of our list can all make a solid case to finish as the wide receiver 1. Colby Conway has a great question. I guess we kind of know where Howard sits on this one: Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, because he has Stephon Diggs at 12, Nico Collins, I think it's just blocked by the question there, and then Tank Dell is outside the top 24. Rhett and I have Nico Collins up in our top 24, but that's the only Houston wide receiver that we have ranked right now inside the top 24. Are you expecting Howard, Stephon Diggs to take over the wide receiver 1 role for Houston, and having 2 Houston wide receivers in your top 24? Are you expecting CJ Stroud to enter top 5 quarterback stratosphere this season?
I'm very bullish on this offense in general. And how could you not be?
Yeah.
But you brought in Stephon Diggs for very specific reasons, right? Like, I love Nico Collins. Nico Collins, he profiles better as a field stretcher than like a possession guy. And Diggs, I think he's like, he can do both, but he's better in the intermediate range. We saw him with Josh Allen. And I think that what we're going to see is a lean on him to help move the chains on the regular. So I think Diggs ends up with more targets, giving him a little bit more value in a full point PPR, right? We did say we were going to talk full point PPR on this. So, it gives Diggs the edge here. Just in the sense of how they're gonna work it. And listen, they probably paid Nico Collins. They gave him that deal, and they were probably like, "Hey, dude, listen, we love you. We're gonna pay you. You're gonna get the work. We're bringing in a marquee guy here right now. Not saying that you're not marquee, but we're bringing in Stephon Diggs, and we're going to utilize him. Don't get us wrong. Here's some money. Make yourself feel better, but." kind of look towards Diggs as being the guy who gets the heavier target share.
So I have to bounce back and ask you the question, Howard. With Stephon Diggs, he's gotten off to these great starts the last couple of years and then fallen off the cliff. Do you think the change of scenery is going to change that so that way there's not that cliff that's been forthcoming like it has been the past couple seasons, or what?
Yeah, I think so, because what you definitely saw last year also was that, what Joe Brady likes to do, he likes to spread it around, and Diggs is like me, 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 me. And so, they're going to satisfy that need for with Diggs in Houston. So, yeah, the drop off was, you had a change in coordinator. He wanted to spread the ball around a little bit more. He wasn't happy with, Diggs's route tree. Diggs wasn't happy. I think he's going to feel a little energized in here, and I think that he's going to have himself a solid season. I'm not glued to it. I'll see how things turn out in camp. Like you guys said, this is a preliminary set of rankings, and a lot of information is going to come in and out over the next couple of months. So for right now, though, yeah, it's going to be Diggs rejuvenated in like a new system here. That's also not going to try and force the run. I know they brought in Joe Mixon, but
Yep.
In Buffalo, they were like, we got to run the ball more. We got to run the ball more. We got to run the ball more. So,
yeah. And I love the call, especially in full point PPR. I've definitely got to already make the adjustment because of the points you made there. Looking at the reception perception profile that Matt Harmon drops, Stephon Diggs just does everything so much better than how Tank Dell does it when he's just creating separation and just gaining field on when he's in the game. So I think Tank Dell's the guy, like we all agree here across the board, that takes the biggest hit in the wide receiver room. But I definitely got to consider putting Stephon Diggs into that top 24. Scampers drops a good question here, a hot topic because of where we are in the fantasy season. Rookie fever is at an all-time high. He says none of us are in on Marvin Harrison Jr. at his current best ball ADP. Quite frankly, I don't play any best ball just because it's not available to me, so I don't quite know where he sits in best ball ADP. I'm assuming it's top 10 for Marvin Harrison Jr. Mr. Scampers did say that he thinks top 10 is rich for Marvin Harrison. We all got him across the board. Rhett's got him at 15, Howard at 17, and myself at 16. So we're all pretty much equal where we have Marvin Harrison Jr. Howard, is this you ranking Marvin Harrison Jr. currently at his floor in your preliminary rankings?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, he's coming off the board as wide receiver 9 over at Underdog in best ball. And it's too high for me. I mean, listen, I get it. Kyler Murray, where everybody's expecting Kyler Murray to do new things in Arizona, and he gets this amazing weapon in Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's great. But, I need to see it before I'm going to immediately put this dude in as a top 10 guy. The problem that you're dealing also with best ball is that, we're seeing, if you look at best ball ADP for wide receivers right now, I mean, it's pretty crazy where all the rookies are going, because if you look further down, you've got Malik Neighbors who's going around where Devonta Smith and Mike Evans are going. But if you look at I think it's round 6 or 7, where all of a sudden it's Xavier Worthy, Romo Dunze, Lad McConkey, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas. These guys are all going in that area there. And I think that's just, again, you're being a little too bullish on some of these rookie wideouts. A lot of the people who do all these best ball drafts early and fresh off of the draft are huge college football nuts who refuse to accept the fact that just because you're amazing in college doesn't mean that you're going to be amazing in the NFL. Let's pour one out for Corey Davis right now while we can.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall. Let's go.
And look, and I said this last week whenever we were talking Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, the top 4 wide receiver yardage seasons of all time for rookies have come in the last 4 seasons, but the only wide receiver 1 seasons have come whenever receivers have had 6 touchdowns or more. So to get Marvin Harrison into that top 12 range, that best ball range where he's wide receiver 9, he has to have a really solid season in the touchdown department, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, but not something that we're comfortable projecting, because the only place that you really want to try to cook in touchdowns in the projections, because it's such a dependent position on it, is tight ends, which we'll talk a little bit later.
Yeah, that's great points across the board there on Marvin Harrison Jr., where we have him ranked early, and it is early. I want to see how he's going to fit into that offense. Considering the lack of depth in the room, I think it's fairly easy to tag a 6.56 touchdown projection on Marvin Harrison Jr., just on how dominant he was at the collegiate level in that red zone area and in the end zone. Kyler Murray can absolutely put the ball on a rope and find this guy into the tight spot. So 6 touchdowns for Marvin Harrison Jr., considering the lack of depth in the wide receiver room. Definitely not a stretch, though, but it is going to be tough for him to get there.
All right. So I just want to let's spitball this a little bit and let's kind of talk it out.
Yep.
Projections for the year in terms of touchdowns from both of you for Kyler Murray passing touchdowns. What are both of you thinking? Start with Howard.
I'll give him 26.
All right, 26. Chris, where are you at?
Yeah, I was going to say 28 and a half.
Okay, 28 and a half. So you have him in near 30?
Yeah.
So, and we also have to keep in mind that even when Kyler Murray came back last year, he built quite a rapport with Trey McBride, who in his own right has a lot of good skills. So 6.5, I think, is right on the line where you're going to be. But that's also, I feel like if you're going anything higher than that, you're taking a very hard discount on somebody who's shown that he could do it at the NFL level last season with Trey McBride.
Yep, fair points. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Howard. In your top 10, if you had to pick a guy that will fall out of the top 24, who would it be and why?
A guy who's in my top 10 who I think will fall out of the top 24?
Yeah, because it's not easy to do looking at the top 10.
No, it's really not easy to do. You know what? I'll give it to DK Metcalf here.
Yeah.
And I love DK Metcalf. I do. And I have him ranked higher than the both of you. Right. And I'm extremely bullish on him. The only reason that I say that he could fall out of the top 24 is that we have to see what's going on in Seattle. Right. Ryan Grubb is the offensive coordinator. We saw what he did in Washington. Right. And it was just it was one of the most prolific passing attacks in all of Div 1 college football. And he was doing it with Michael Penix as his QB. And whatever. I think that Grubb stands the chance to have a really nice explosive offense. I love that Mike McDonald brought in Grubb and is letting Grubb do his thing with the offense. McDonald accepts the fact that he is a defensive-minded coach, and that's going to be the way it is. But if everything pops right with what we've seen here with the possibility of Grubb's offense, I mean, it's going to funnel mad targets DK Metcalf's way. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to do the work across the middle. He's going to be a possession guy that they rely on. They utilize the tight end more as like a blocker, on the regular. So you are looking at some good, 3 wide receiver sets. And I think Metcalf comes out on top the most. Now, if Grubb's offense gets banged up, not in like the injury sense, but in the sense that the NFL defensive coordinators are like, go back to college, then that's going to be a problem situation there. But for right now here, for everything that I've done research wise into this, this offensive scheme, DK Metcalf, I'm leaving him here in my top 10. I love the talent. I love the player.
Yeah, I dig it. And I'm like you, I'm excited for the Ryan Grubb offense, especially for Jackson Smith and the Jigba. Are you buying the current value of JSN where he sits right now?
Yeah, because I'm not really a huge Tyler Lockett fan either. I think Lockett has his merits, but I think, you bring JSN along slowly like you did last year. You're trying to develop him into being a more well-rounded receiver. So, And again, I think that this just works really well in Grubb's style of offense. So I'm okay taking JSN where he's going.
Yep, I like it. We got Drew. Drew still in baseball uniform, a man of the game. Love to see it. Welcome to the show, Drew. We got Howard Bender live on air from Fantasy Alarm and Sirius XM, breaking down wide receiver and tight end redraft rankings for 2024. You can find his full set of rankings at fantasyalarm.com. Drew, did you guys win? Most important question of the day.
No, man, it was a letdown of an evening. It was still fun to watch him play, but the outcome was not what we would hope. But that's all right. The kids got better tonight, though, so that's what it's all about.
Poor coaching.
It probably was a coaching issue, if I had to guess. Yeah,
it was a bad baseball night all around, Drew. It doesn't matter what level we're talking about. Just a terrible day for baseball.
Most baseball nights have been bad baseball nights for me this year. That's why I'm so glad we get to talk about football. That's much less depressing for me right now.
He's a Cards fan, Howard, just in case you didn't know.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's been rough for a while.
Sonny Gray looked good tonight.
Yeah, that's our one shining hope so far this year.
Glass half full. Glass half full. Rhett, if you had to pick a guy inside of your top 10 that you think would fall out of the top 24, who are you picking and why?
Oh my God, this is such a difficult call because, like you said, these are top 10 guys for a reason. So if I'm looking at it right now, I mean, I guess the one thing I could say is that Davante Adams is over that age 30 cliff. And with that offense and that quarterback situation, if they run the ball as much as they want to, I guess he could be a possibility. But even then, top 24, falling out of the top 24 is a heck of a stretch for a guy like that. Yeah. So I guess if you're going to put me on the spot, I'm going to have to say Davante Adams. But you can put that in chalk. On a sidewalk chalk on a rainy day, not necessarily in pen or stone or anything like that.
All right, Drew, you just hopped in. Who's your top 10 guy, man? Put you on the spot ready to join the show. Who's your top 10 guy you think is going to fall out of the top 24?
You couldn't have given me like a softball to warm up with or anything?
No, sir.
No. If you guys would have won the game, I might have would have taken it easy on you.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you lost.
Yeah.
You got to run the bases, brother.
You're right. Yeah, you got to earn it. It's tough, man. I mean, if Davante Adams was in my top 10, I would agree with Brett's pick. I think if I had to guess, I'm probably the lowest on Adams. I am kind of concerned with the yards per route run, the first downs per route run. They've been dropping the last couple of years. They added Brock Bowers. I know Gardner Minshew hyper-targeted Michael Pittman last year, but as good as Gardner Minshew looked, I think a lot of that credit should go to Shane Steichen. So I don't know if that quarterback situation, I don't know what that looks like. So I'm nervous about Adams. If I had to pick somebody in my top 10, though, I just heard you guys talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. I know I'm the only schmuck that's got the rookie in his top 10. If he doesn't get the 6.5 touchdowns that you guys say that he needs to get to be a wide receiver one, I think he might be the easiest one to see fall out. But that's kind of copping out because he is my number 10 receiver. So he's technically inside my top 10, but it's not exactly the boldest call I could have made. But, anytime you have a rookie that high, there's risk involved, but the special rookies, we've seen them deliver on that type of top 10 season. We saw it with Jamar Chase. He was the wide receiver 5 his rookie year. Obviously we didn't, hindsight is 2020, but we didn't know how special Puka would be, but he was the wide receiver 9 in points per game. Justin Jefferson was the wide receiver 10. So, we've seen these elite prospects return top 10 fantasy finishes in their rookie year. And with Harrison, he's got the quarterback. He has limited target competition. It's basically him and Trey McBride, but maybe they go more run heavy to try to take some pressure off Kyler, and use James Conner. They just drafted Trey Benson, so maybe they try to get the running game more involved and the touchdowns aren't there and he ends up dropping.
Yep, that's fair. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is your pick?
That would be my pick. Yep. Just because Scampers put another one in there, but I just refuse to say anything bad about Drake London. So I'm not doing that.
He did say Drake London is a nervous bet. For me, I would probably, if I had to pick one, it would be DJ Moore. Just want to see how Waldron's offense is going to work with the rookie quarterback there in Chicago. He's got Keenan Allen there, and he's also got Rome Odunze to to compete for targets. So if I had to pick one guy to fall out of my top 10, DJ Moore, but also a guy that I could see have a career year in Chicago with Caleb Williams throwing him the ball. We got a question from Daniel Dixon in the chat. Howard, which Packer wide receiver, and there is about 10 of them right now, has the best chance of making your top 25?
I've got Jaden Reed. Let me see where I've got Jaden Reed. I might as well just see where I've got him ranked here. Give me one quick second. But I think, Jaden Reed's probably the guy who I'm definitely looking at here. I'm pulling it up right now, and I've got Jaden Reed ranked at 29. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love the fact that, that they utilize Jaden Reed with some rushing touchdowns and getting, that kind of like that, like Deebo Samuel light wide back sort of a play. They play around with that with him. He's going to see, significant target share in this. I do like Christian Watson. I feel like Christian Watson could be a little bit more explosive this year, especially if, he figured out this whole asymmetrical hamstring thing that he's got going on right now. But I'll just bank on Jaden Reed being the guy to jump 4 or 5 spots into my top 24 as the guy.
And I'm going to agree with that, because with Christian Watson and everybody else, and Jaden Reed included, Jaden Reed, I see him in this way. Least volatile skill set among these Packer guys. Dontavian Wicks, the role is a little bit uncertain. Christian Watson, we've seen it in the past between injuries and the way he plays, very boom or bust. Romeo Dobbs, also one of these guys who is solid but hasn't really had a super big season. So to me, it's either between Watson and Reed's the guy who seems less volatile, like you said, because of the rushing usage, because he gets a little bit more underneath stuff. He just seems more available as more of a check down guy as well, which in a PPR situation like this plays into his cards a little bit more.
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, you go ahead, brother.
I would have been right on it, man. I was ready to get with Rhett, but I had the the amateur mistake of being on mute. So for me, Christian Watson, he's the guy. I think he's the one I have ranked highest among Packers receivers, and it's really just a bet on upside if he does get the injuries figured out. He had 14 end zone targets in 9 games last year. And he's got the body, and Jaden Reed, I think he ended up with like 8 touchdowns, but it was on less than like 65 receptions, if memory serves me correctly. That's a tough, we know touchdowns are tough to project as it is, but whenever you look at the usage between those two guys, you would think that Watson would have more upside, but I think that Jaden Reed would probably be more dependable on a week-to-week basis. So it's really just, once you're at that point in your draft and you're looking at these Packers receivers, I would say just look at your roster construction and what does your roster need at that time? Have you already taken a lot of upside shots and you need some safety, or do you need some upside in your lineup? So I think at that point, with where the Packers receivers are going, you can kind of make that determination based on how the rest of your draft have been up to that point.
Yeah, Watson just screams best ball wide receiver because of how
the phrase of death
he's going to be. Yeah, exactly. Especially for the wide receivers. Watson's hammies are fixed, though. Are Christian Watson's hamstrings this year's Jameis Winston's LASIK surgery, where it's just going to go down as not really being that much of a thing? It just seems like he put all the science behind fixing his hamstrings. Week 3 is going to go down with a hamstring injury. Mr. Scamper's asymmetrical hamstring sounds like a terrific Brazilian food truck.
That's great.
For the record, I already called dibs on asymmetrical hamstrings as my new band, so you guys can't have it.
All right, that's the wide receivers. Any last takes before we move on to the tight ends, gentlemen?
Nope.
I was just going to say real quick that at the bottom of my top 12, I'm like Michael Pittman. I have him a little bit higher than everybody else. And I just look at it like this is in terms of wide receivers that are in that room and pass catchers in general. I don't know who I can trust in Indianapolis outside of Michael Pittman. Josh Downs had a solid rookie season. Alec Pierce has really shown his Michael Pittman.
Time, Rhett. No, the other guy you can
Oh,
trust in Indianapolis.
Jelani
who plays tight end.
Woods.
You got it.
Oh, we're back.
Jelani's
We're
team,
so
man.
back, baby.
I worked Jelani Woods into the
No.
show, baby. Let's go.
Jelani Woods is the guy Jelani Woods is only there. Oh man, I don't really want to go on.
He's no
Jelani
Kylan
Woods.
Granson. That's
Oh man, he's only there for the zip line. That's Jelani Woods.
I like the Jelani Woods call. I mean, yeah.
Here we go.
Oh
you
no,
know,
it's not.
I mean, we don't know what Mitchell's gonna be like, and Josh Downs is solid. Alec Pierce he's just a guy that, you know, I mean, where are, because we have seen the utilization of tight ends in this system when these tight ends are actually healthy. That's the big issue. So if Jelani Woods actually, you know, if he can pop in as like the third highest targeted, you know, pass catcher in this offense, even the fourth highest, it puts him into a much better spot than probably most tight ends who are going around where his ADP is. Because what's Jelani Woods' ADP, like 368 right now?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've been all the
Too
Scott
high.
Fishbowl mocks. I've been grabbing him with one of the last couple picks. He's way down there.
Yeah, my only thing is if he's fourth target in an offense that is going to be read one,
heavy?
read two, run. What's the fourth target worth? in
But
fantasy?
I don't think it's a guarantee that that's what ends up happening. That's in the range of outcomes. But him being the second target could also be in the range of outcomes. Like there's no clear number two option behind Michael Pittman. So like my
Jonathan Taylor.
pick. Well, yeah. That's. I mean, I love JT this year. If I had to pick one, I think Josh Downs would probably be my second option in the offense. If I had to pick one, but I mean, Jelani's free, so like, why not take the shot in the drafts? And if he does end up being the number two option, hey, you got something for free at the end of your draft. So I think you could do worse.
I'm just pissed off that I got cut off for another Jelani Woods take on this show.
You shouldn't have brought up.
One of these days, we gonna fight about it. But tonight ain't that night, dog.
It's the tight
All
end
right.
show, and you asked about Colts pass catchers. What do you want from me, man?
That's all right. So Jelani Woods and in your top 14, we can't talk about him. All right, let's see. Nah, he's
Not in the
not.
top
So
14.
let's keep it moving.
Give me 2 seconds. Hang on.
He was close, though. He was this close.
All right, let's pivot to the tight ends. Speaking of Jelani Woods, we all except Rhett have Travis Kelce as the tight end one going into this season. I like the Sam Laporta call, Rhett, being there. A lot of the talk is we can't predict him getting that kind of touchdown usage, but I don't see a situation where he isn't used the same way that he was last year. The offensive coordinator stayed. They didn't bring in much competition in terms of targets. There's a lot of talk about Jameson Williams, but I'm not ready to plant a flag on Jameson Williams as the second
Same.
target in this Detroit Lions offense. So Sam Laporta can definitely be the guy or the second guy for Detroit and the guy in the end zone. So are you in the same wavelength as me with Sam Laporta having that same role going into year two?
Yeah, that's exactly where I am. And there might be a touchdown regression coming, but there might also be a little bit of an increase in targets from year one to year two as well. So, I mean, you kind of balance that out a little bit. And in a PPR format, if he gets a little bit of a jump up in the target share and he gets a few more receptions, if that jumps up by 12 to 15 receptions, then you have 15 points. And then that 10 touchdown year can come down to 8 touchdowns, which feels more attainable. So 6 of one, half a dozen of another, tight end one. Consecutive tight end one finishes are within the range of outcomes for Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, across the board, it's 2, 2, 3, and 1. So definitely interchangeable. And we might even change as we get closer to the season. Travis Kelce did come out today. We saw the press conference. He says he wants to be used and abused in this Kansas City offense. Howard, are we buying it, Howard? Or are we expecting a workload, kind of like an NBA style thing that they kind of did last year with Travis Kelce?
No, I don't think you need to really manage his workload too heavily. I mean, you bring in Marquise Brown on like a little pillow deal, so he's going to try and pad his stats. We don't know the full status of Rashee Rice. Is he going to miss some time? I don't even know. Hey, what's up, Rachel? And then you just kind of like Xavier Worthy, he's a rookie. We have to see. Travis Kelce is the number one target in this offense. He is Patrick Mahomes' favorite guy. And, yes, Sam Laporta was absolutely dynamic last year, but like we can poke holes in any player, whatsoever.
Mhm.
You are expanding Jameson Williams' route tree. You are trying to make him, like a more featured wideout. So, does that affect, Sam Laporta at all? Does Jahmyr Gibbs seeing more targets potentially affect Sam Laporta? At least I know that with Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes loves him, and he's going to lean on him continuously again.
Yep. I think that's agreed across the board. I don't see a time management kind of situation happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm expecting Travis Kelce to get a full workload. We got a question here from HoopTube. Is Dallin Holker, Saints tight end, rookie tight end, Colorado State electric tight end when he was there last year? With the Juwan Johnson news, is Dallin Holker a potential sleeper? And we'll start with you, Howard.
Is he a potential sleeper? I don't know. Don't they still have Taysom Hill on the roster, for crying out loud?
Yeah,
Wouldn't he
you're gonna
benefit
wanna-
the most from Juwan?
Yeah,
Juwan Johnson,
absolutely.
like hurt his leg. Juwan
Yeah,
Johnson hurt his
yeah.
leg today, and so he's so he's
Yeah.
going to be out indefinitely. I mean, it could be. That's the thing. When you're looking at the Saints offense, and what they're going to do, it really comes down to whether or not Taysom Hill continues to get that work. I can't really dive too deeply into it. I'd rather, there are definitely other sleeper tight ends. I'd rather take that shot on Theo Johnson day in and day out than to take it on Holker.
It stinks too, because Juwan Johnson was one of the tight ends that I liked taking shots on at the end of draft, like toward the end of drafts. I was excited about Juwan Johnson this year with his price tag. So that is very unfortunate for numerous reasons, but not just our reason.
For all those best ball drafts, I've already taken them in. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, right. Thanks for nothing.
This is why you got to draft in November, Howard, not June.
Well, who says I suck?
November.
Yeah, everybody says you don't
Touche.
draft.
Touche.
You never draft until week 15. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Who was thinking last round of Scott Fishbowl 14? Quite frankly, you could probably get Dallin Holker off waivers if you're drafting. I think the Scott Fishbowl draft started in about a month or so. So you most likely don't got to touch Dallin Holker there. You could probably pick him up off waivers. Dame Overboard says Mark Andrews very low across the board. I have him at 3. Drew has him at 5. Howard at 5. Rhett has him the lowest at 6. Is it just the case of the injury that he suffered last year and the guys you have ranked above him coming into a better role?
For me, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm looking at it right now. I mean, Laporta, Kelce, McBride, Kincaid, I all expect to have gigantic workloads. Evan Ingram, even if his workload comes down by 20 or 30% from last year, we're still looking at a guy who's going to be a 100 to 110 target tight end after he had 143 targets last year. So I know they added some guys to that wide receiver room. We've never had faith in Gabe Davis. We expect there to be a bit of a learning curve for Brian Thomas. That leaves Christian Kirk and presumably Evan Ingram as your top 2 targets in that offense to start the season. So I'm higher on Evan Ingram than other people right now, and that's the reason why, because he had so much work last year that even if he takes a significant dip this season, it's still a very healthy load for him.
I think it's a really fair point by Dame. It does feel like he's low. Like I don't feel good about having him at tight end 5. But the kind of the way I've been approaching tight end so far in drafts is, unless Travis Kelce falls like way below ADP, I don't really want to be the first person in my league drafting a tight end, because right now, as things sit, I have 5 tight ends in my tier 1. You see my top 5 guys there: Kelce, Laporta, McBride, Pitts, and Andrews. And then even looking, we're going to talk about Dalton Kincaid, Howard, because looking at where you have him, he might need to be in my tier 1 too, because I know your tight ends, and I might be a little too low on him. Maybe my tier 1 needs to be 6 guys, but there's 5 guys right now, the way where I sit, that I think that they all have the upside to finish as the overall tight end one. And so I just want to wait and grab one of these top 5, top 6 guys. Andrews is in that group. And so it doesn't feel good having him at 5, considering how talented he is and the production he's shown when he is healthy. I mean, the dude doesn't block at all. Like he's a pass catcher. Like, I mean, I think he'll be the number 1 option in the Baltimore offense again, whenever he's healthy. So it doesn't feel good having him at 5, but that's why tier-based drafting is so important. He's still in my tier 1 of tight ends. It's a much bigger tier 1 than there typically is. I feel really good about the top of the tight end position this year. And Mark Andrews is absolutely in that group.
And on my rankings, you'll see when you go to half point PPR and then standard that Andrews creeps up into this group. The reason I've got him here at 5 is because Kelsey, Kincaid, Laporta, McBride, these guys are going to get dominant target share. Like, I mean, it's going to be, they're going to see a ton of work. Not that Andrews doesn't, but it's not as high volume. It's not as high volume of passing offense as what these other guys have. And so that's why I kind of pulled back on Andrews in the full point PPR format. But, again, I absolutely love him. And I think, it's kind of funny, Drew, your rankings, my rankings, we've got Pitts and Kincaid are the 2 guys who are, kind of, in that realm. And, again, it's like, do I trust the fact that, Zach Robinson's never called a play on any level? Like he's never done it. So, I kind of, that's kind of how I weighted at this point. But, I think that what I'm doing in drafts right now is 100%. I am taking one of the top 5 tight ends. I'm definitely grabbing one of those guys. Their ADP sucks. It's too high. Sam Laporta. I did a draft yesterday that Sam Laporta went in the 2nd round, which is it's just too much.
No, thank you. Yeah,
you're right. Exactly. So that's, so I'll wait until like, Kincaid or McBride's ADP, because at least that pushes them down to like round 5 maybe. And I can grab them then. But then what I do is I lock in one of those tight ends. And this is, especially in best ball format, but then I wait all the way, towards the bottom in the ADP to maybe somebody Chris has it, number 14 there. And I grab him as like my 2nd tight end. And then I don't have to worry about a 3rd tight end in a best ball format. Like, it's like that whole, Coop talks about this. You guys know Andrew Cooper, obviously, the yin yang tight end. You get that one top guy and then you've got your backup. If I were going to take a lower tight end, if I were to, like, let's say, draft a guy like Jake Ferguson or Dallas Goedert, I would probably have to take another tight end to just feel comfortable. And then probably even at the end of the draft, take a 3rd guy. If I get my top 5 guy, then I know I just, give me one more backup tight end and then I'm good to go, because these guys are all just fierce target monsters.
So Howard, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a question where I'm setting you up, because I know how I feel. In terms of the yin and the yang, the late tight ends, how do you feel about Greg Dulcich?
I actually like Dulcich. I mean,
all right, we're cooking.
I mean, look at what we've got, right? I don't know. Maybe Tim Patrick's knee gets held together by needle and thread. I don't know. But you show me anybody outside of Cortland Sutton who can catch a pass, like reliable. And listen, if Christian Watson can, beat the hamstring issue, maybe Greg Dulcich can too. Like he's a guy who I think can be somebody who could be the 2nd or 3rd target on that team. I'm not looking at like Marvin Mims or any of the garbage that they've got there.
I agree. I agree. Not to bring him up again, but he's going right there, like a few spots ahead of Jelani Woods. So, like, I love taking shots on those 2 guys at the end of draft.
There you go.
Not Jelani Woods quota.
Again, but, just in case
we're gonna have to get a Jelani Woods counter for the rest of the episodes. So every time you say Jelani Woods, there's another one. Okay, we Drew brought him up briefly a little earlier. Dalton Kincaid, you have him as the tight end 2, Howard. Is that you projecting Dalton Kincaid to be the number 1 target in that Buffalo offense?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like what they've got going on there. I like Joe Brady's offense, but he relies so heavily on those underneath slants, right? And that's like his that's his bread and butter. And so that's why he brings in Curtis Samuel. That's why he maintains Khalil Shakir. Keon Coleman, interesting, does really well against contested catches, doesn't get a lot of separation. So, maybe you try and lead him in that sense. Maybe you use him to stretch the field vertically a little bit more. But I mean, with what we saw with Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid, yeah, to me, he is definitely going to be the number one target in this offense.
Yeah. Anyone disagree with that? I think it's a pretty solid statement there.
I'll
with
fight
Dalton
you guys
Kincaid
if you
walking. Yeah, please don't.
He's another one. I mean, Dalton Kincaid's another guy that makes me wonder what to like. I just feel really good about the top end of the tight end position, and it feels weird to say that. And even Rhett made the case for Evan Ingram. He's my tight end 8, but I would still be comfortable if Evan Ingram was my tight end 1 going into the year. And then we haven't even talked about George Kittle yet. But whenever him and Brock Purdy are on the field together, Purdy loves throwing the ball to George Kittle, and he's got a ton of upside, and he can break something for he can break a week and win you a week any given week with his upside and his athletic ability as well. So it's the tight end position is interesting. It's back.
Now, how come nobody else has any faith in Dallas Goedert? Like, come on, this is Kellen Moore's offense.
Yeah,
he's gonna find the tight end.
Yeah, it's just, where does he rank? He'll find the tight end, but where does he rank amongst the target share? With Saquon Barkley now there, right? Saquon Barkley's going to eat into some of that. So do I see a situation, because I don't even believe I have him ranked in my top 14. Do I see a situation where Dallas Goedert can finish inside the top 12, top 10, top 7 of tight ends? Absolutely. Just based on how inconsistent the back end of some of the tight ends can be, Dallas Goedert can definitely slide right in there.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern is, like, you assume AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, they're 1 and 2 in the offense in terms of targets. And then they, like you said, Chris, they brought in Saquon. How much are they really going to throw the ball? And so it's just like, it feels like you're going to be banking on needing a lot of touchdowns from Goddard. But I mean, he is in a good offense, so he's got that going for him. But it feels like his ceiling is being the 3rd target option on the team, and there's even a case for him to being the 4th target option on the team whenever you consider how good of a pass catching option Saquon is. But then you have to factor in how much Jalen Hurts target the running back and things like that. So it gets murky there, but it feels like the ceiling is Goddard being the 3rd option in the offense. So he just barely missed the graphic. I have him at tight end 15.
And looking at all of our rankings right now, there's one thing that I'm going to go ahead and just put out there. I think our top 8s are pretty much consensus across the board. I think we all agree that those are guys that we're all comfortable drafting and having as your tight end 1.
After
that, there's a drop off. And I think all of us would probably agree as well that Brock Bowers probably has the most potential to move up in this list by the end of the season into that tight end, into that top 8, top 9 territory with these other guys, because the upside is just there. I think the big slot thing that I've been talking about is not going to be a myth. I think that's something that can really happen with him. He's going to be on there in 11, 12 personnel. He's going to be playing some big slot. There is a lot of places where Brock Bowers can be used, which gives him a lot of positional upside that you can probably leverage in drafts a little bit later.
Yeah. Now, I don't have TJ Hawkinson in my top 14 only because he's projected to miss a good part of the season. So I just kind of wanted to leave him out there. Howard, is TJ Hawkinson the best value tight end that you have ranked in your top 14 right now?
I mean, probably based on where he's going in drafts right now. Yeah, you kind of have to look at it. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see him on the mend, but once he comes back and he starts playing, you've got Jefferson, you've got Jordan Addison, and then where else are you going with the football? So, I think you're getting a nice bargain price here on Hawkinson, which is, again, this is why you draft early and not late. Yep. Once he starts showing up at camp and all of a sudden the beat writer goes, TJ Hawkinson very well could be on the field in week 1. Bing, like all of a sudden everybody's they're going to pop them into like their top 10, their top 8. So, yeah.
That's fair. Dame Overlord says Freiermuth is missing from 2 lists. That's myself and Howard's. I don't know about you, Howard, but for me, it's just a confidence thing for in that offense, the Arthur Smith offense, Pittsburgh as a whole. But I don't know what your outlook is for Pat Freiermuth, but for me, that's where I'm sitting with it.
Did you say Pittsburgh as a whole? Is that what you said? It sounded like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's very interesting to look at this offense. Russell Wilson, we'll see how he runs it, but you threw the name right out there that we all know, and it's Arthur Smith. So that to me tells me that what I need to know is who is the second tight end in Pittsburgh, who's the third tight end, because those are the guys that are going to be getting the end arounds inside the green zone. Right?
Red zone carries.
Is it Darnell Washington season? Is that who the backup tight end is over in Pittsburgh still?
I think it is.
I think so.
Backup tight end or sixth offensive lineman, depends on how you slice it.
Well, there you go. Like Arthur Smith will no doubt give him like a couple of carries inside the 5 and a few extra passes.
Yeah.
The Darnell Washington sneak can definitely be a thing this season.
Yeah,
Again,
I think the thing with me with Pryor,
UPS and not FedEx.
I think so. For me, having Freiermuth inside my top 12, I consider him a tight end one this year. It's just it's very similar to some of the other tight ends we've talked about with just potential opportunity. Like you've got George Pickens there, he's the wide receiver one, but if they don't trade for Ayuk or Deebo Samuel like they've been rumored to, who's the second option there? And to Howard's point, there is concerns with Arthur Smith coming over because he just turned around and was splitting work between Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts, even though we feel like Kyle Pitts was the clear better option. But it's interesting because the second option in Pittsburgh is much less of a pass catching threat than the second option was in Atlanta. So as bad as Arthur Smith might want to use Darnell Washington in the same way, I don't know if his skill set is going to allow him to, and it might just force Pat Freiermuth to be out there as the second best pass catcher. For my money, I think he is the second best pass catcher on that offense. Now, whether the coaching staff agrees and the target order breaks down that way, we'll see. But whenever you get past George Pickens right now with how Pittsburgh wide receiver room is stacked out, it's hard to see who would really compete with Freiermuth for that second option. So I like betting on him there. There's the question of is Russell Wilson going to target the tight end? But his time in Seattle, he had pretty damn good receivers to throw to, so it's understandable why he might not have targeted the tight end as much. So I don't put too much money into that. But yeah, once you get past the top 8 tight ends, to me, man, it's just like pick your flavor, take your shot. Yeah, I would just wait at that point and grab a couple at the end of the draft. Like there's no need to reach for an Njoku or Jake Ferguson or those guys. Like just wait it out at that point once you miss out on the top 8. And right now, Freiermuth's ADP is in that area where you can wait a little while. And so I think his ADP is pretty favorable.
Yep. And you mentioned there, guy I wanted to talk about just briefly before we wrap this up and get Howard Bender out of here. Howard, Jake Ferguson has the potential to be the second target in Dallas behind CeeDee Lamb. We're all projecting the Dallas Cowboys to throw the ball a ton, considering the lack of depth or talent in their backfields. Is it in the realm of possibility for Jake Ferguson to finish as a top 3 tight end at the end of the season?
I don't know if it's going to be top 3. Ferguson profiles definitely beautifully inside the red zone, right? Like I think he's going to be, he can get the touchdowns there. Is he going to be, is Ferguson that guy like a Kelsey or a Kittle or even an Andrews who just pushes for that extra yardage? Not all the time.
No.
So I think that Ferguson is a good, solid tight end. But when you've got Lamb, and listen, I don't want to, I'm not going to, put a light on Brandon Cooks that he's the be all end all, but he is the number 2 target in that offensive scheme. So it's going to go Lamb and it's going to go Cooks. And then, you're going to see probably a little fight between Jake Ferguson and like Jalen Tolbert or somebody like that. I still think that Dallas Cowboys can also bring in a third wide receiver option too. Absolutely. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility still.
Yep.
Good old Ryan Flournoy.
What a pull. Holy.
All right, Howard, that's the show. Any other takes on your top 12, top 14 tight ends that you want to share before we let you go?
No. I think the crew here speaks for itself. I love the lists. I love the similarities, and I love some of the differences here. So, I know that if I'm drafting with any of you three, that I'm gonna have to like take a top tight end ahead of ADP because I'm gonna be fighting with you guys. And then when it gets down to like rounds 13 and 14, I'm gonna have to fight Chris for Hunter Henry. I got you. I'm learning a lot here, actually. So thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I got a mean eye poke, Howard. So make sure you watch out for the eye poke. All right.
I bite.
Oh, God. I'm
Guys
scared.
fight
Man.
dirty.
I will
Folks,
pinch. I will
fighting.
scratch.
That's the show. We appreciate everyone that showed up, hopped in the chat, liked the stream, or subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames channel. We had Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm, Sirius XM, one of the busiest guys in fantasy football on the show today. We appreciate your time, Howard, coming on.
Yes, sir.
The frame is yours. Let the people know what you got going on inside of fantasy football and outside of fantasy football.
Well, outside of fantasy football, it doesn't really exist very much, does it? Some baseball stuff there, and I like walking my dogs. How about that? In the football realm, draft guide over at Fantasy Alarm. We are hard at work at that. That is dropping at the end of June. It is a living draft guide. We'll have content rolling out throughout the entire month of July and into August, and making sure that you guys are all well taken care of there. My full rankings across all half point, full point, standard. I've got it all there over at fantasyalarm.com, including a top 200 for season long and a top 200 for super flex. So everything that you need over there at fantasyalarm.com, and come hang out with me on SiriusXM. Come hang out with me like these three guys do, right? Come hang out on SiriusXM, and we'll shoot the shit over there.
Absolutely.
Outside, outside fantasy football. Rhett, Drew, any final words before we let Howard go?
No, special shout out number one, Howard, for joining us. It's always a pleasure, man. We love having you on, and then shout out to all you guys in the chat that hang out with us tonight. Dame, Scampers, Angie, Hoove, Tootsie Pop. There was a lot of good engagement in the chat tonight, which is expected whenever you have an OG like Howard on the show. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us, Howard. We appreciate you as always coming to bless us with your presence as well.
Pleasure's all on this side of the table, boys. You know it. You know it.
Rhett, any final words? I know you're Jordan game, baby.
No, Rhett's like, I need Robitussin right now, guys. I need my soda clothes and I need my cough syrup.
Just all love on this end, as usual. Howard, thank you as always, man. Appreciate all you've done for us throughout our time doing this show over the past year. Everything you do for the community, getting that exposure over Sirius, whether it's us or other people, man, you're doing awesome work. Not only at Alarm, but on Sirius, just giving other people the opportunity to shine, man. You don't know how appreciated it is from people like us who are still trying to get that upstart and that upswing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you do. You're genuinely one of the best people in this space.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Very kind of you. Very kind.
That is echoed across the board. All right, that's the show, Howard. Appreciate you coming on. Let's start the Jets season off right. Follow me, JETS.
I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. Jets.